morning to all. Today we are going to discuss about inheritance in C++, that is object-oriented programming. Many times in social gatherings, we heard about statements like Amit walks exactly like his father, or we say Kajal has beautiful eyes just like her mother. So when we keenly observe these sentences, we say Amit walks just like his father. It indicates that Amit has inherited a property of way of walking from his father. Similarly, when we say Kajal has beautiful eyes like her mother, in that case, it indicates that Kajal has inherited the characteristics or property of beautiful eyes, having beautiful eyes from her mother. So this is in general when we talk about inheritance. So let us bring inheritance in OOPS, that is object-oriented programming. So when we say inheritance in OOPS, it is the capability or ability of a class to derive the properties and characteristics from another class. It is called as one of the most important features of object-oriented programming. It is a way to create new class from the existing class. So the new class will be a specialized version of the existing class. Let us understand inheritance in a better way. So as we can see an example of an insect. So if we take insect as a whole, then all insects, there are different types of insects. So if we take insects as a whole, that will act as a base class. And in insects, within that insect class, we have different types of insects like, let us talk about bumblebee. So that is one of the insects which has a special characteristics that it makes a sound that will be singing or singing sound. So that is one of the characteristics. Bumblebee may have other characteristics which are common in insects, but it has its special character. One of the special characteristics, that is, it will be making a singing sound whenever it is moving. You must have seen a bumblebee. So you know that it is something black in color and it makes sound and singing sound kind of. So this is bumblebee having its own characteristics and some characteristics from the base class insect. Similarly, if we talk about a grasshopper also is an insect. So it comes under insect category because it has some characteristics which are common in insects, plus it has an additional characteristics, that is, it can jump. It has a green color. So these are the different or separate characteristics that a grasshopper has in it. So from this example, you will be better able to understand that if I keep insects as the base class and bumblebee as a derived class and grasshopper as another derived class, so both the derived classes are taking some properties from the base class as well as they are having their own properties as well. So let us continue. Question comes, when and why we use inheritance? Why we use inheritance? What situation do we use inheritance? For example, if I have to make three classes, say a bus class, a car class and a truck class. If so, then functions or methods like fuel amount, capacity, apply brakes. So these common methods will be common for all the three classes. So if you see in the diagram, I have three classes. All each and every class has the same functions in it. So in that case, we are doing redundancy. It is causing redundancy of the data. This kind of method may land us in problems such as duplication, redundancy of data, and when we write more number of codes, there are more chances of getting errors. That is also true. So data redundancy, more number of errors, These are the problems which are faced when we go for repetition of code. So to avoid this situation, we go for inheritance. So this is the situation where we go for using the property of inheritance. That is called one of the important features of OOPS. There are a lot of OOPS concepts that we have already studied, certain OOPS concepts. In those OOPS concepts, one of the important concept was inheritance. So what we can do, what we are going to do to solve these problems by using inheritance, I am going to create one class. The name of the class will be vehicle, and write these three functions in that class. Those common functions which we had seen, those common functions I will put into the class vehicle, and then I will create three different class: bus, car, truck, and I will inherit these class from the vehicle class. So as you can see in the figure, I am having class vehicle which is having functions like fuel amount, capacity, apply brake, and then I have derived three more classes from the vehicle class. So I hope this is understood by everyone. Now, what are the terminologies that are used in inheritance? So if we see the terms, firstly we go for parent class or base class. So it is the class which is inherited from. Parent class, also called as base class, it is a class which is inherited from. Then the second terminology used is derived class, also called as a child class. It is something which inherits from the base class, a class which inherits properties from the base class. And as you can see, the syntax or the notation that we used, like for example, I have a class vehicle which will be a base class. I open the class. Inside that I may define some methods or functions. I close my class. Another one class car, which is inherited publicly from vehicle, and this class car will be called as a derived class. Again I open my class and I define some functions of its own and I close my class. So this is how we will write inheritance in C++. The same thing that we had just now seen. So we follow the syntax. If we properly look at the syntax, we have a class. Class is a keyword which is used to define or declare a class, subclass, name, access mode, base class, name. This is what we write in this format. And then we open curly braces, then we have the body of the subclass and we close with the class. So here in this syntax, we have subclass name is the name of the class which is inherited. Access mode specifies the mode in which we are going to inherit the subclass. So this is like we may have private access specifiers or we may have public access specifier, whatever is there, we have to indicate that, we have to mention that. And we have the base class name. So that is the name of the base class, the class from which we want to inherit the subclass. So this is the exact syntax and this is the way we are using. This way we are going to inherit a derived class from the base class. Just for example, we take a small example how a C++ program will be in inheritance, using inheritance. Let us see an example of implementation of inheritance in C++. So if we see here, we have defined the base class. So here we have keyword class associated with the name of the class. Here we are, our name is parent, base class name is parent. Inside the class, I have defined some public variables like id underscore p. So we may call it as parent id. And I am closing my class. I have completed my class. Again, next you can see subclass inheriting from base class. So we have now next I am going to define a subclass or parent class, child class which is derived from the parent class. So again class, keyword class, and then the name of the class, the child class, that is child. The name of the class itself is child. Then we have given the access specifier, that is public, and then the name of the parent class, that is parent. So base class and derived class. So my derived class here is child and my base class here is parent. So we can say that the derived class child is publicly derived from the base class parent. So in my derived class, I have defined some public variables like id underscore c, that is some say child id, student id or child id. With that I am ending my closing my class. Come to the main function. Now in the main I have defined in the main function I have created an object of child, that is obj1, and with this object I will be calling the functions, or I will be accessing the variables which are there in the derived class as well as the base class. So if you see these statements, obj1 dot id underscore c, this is one of the attributes taken from my derived class, which is equal to 7. So with the object I am accessing and using one of the variables of the derived class, and in the next line same object I am using to create to use my one of the elements or elements that is defined in the parent class. So that is obj.id underscore b, which is equal to 91. Ultimately with the help of cout I am displaying child id and parent id. So this is one of the examples where I am showing how we can implement inheritance in C++. So in the previous example we have seen modes of, we said that modes of inheritance, that is access specifier. So let us go into detail what are these modes of access specifier or modes of inheritance, how it can be inherited. So we have three types in that is public mode, we have protected mode, and we have private mode. So let us talk about the public mode. So if we derive a subclass from a parent base class, then the public member of the base class will become public in the derived class. Protected members will become protected in the derived class. So this is what the rule says, that is, if I am inheriting a child derived class in public way, then my members will become public in the derived class. If they are protected, if it is derived protectively, then the members will become protective. That is, they are protected members. This is one of the rules. Second, when we talk about protected mode, in that case, if we derive a subclass from a protected base class, then both the public and the protected members of the base class will become protected in the derived class. So this tells how my members, data members will behave when they are derived from the base class to the derived class. Ultimately, when we talk about private mode, so here we have to be careful, because if we derive a subclass from a private base class, then both public members and protected members of the base class will become private in derived class. So if we are taking members as private, they cannot be accessed outside the class. When we say private, those members are not or cannot be accessed outside the class. So here the private members in the base class cannot be directly accessed in the derived class, while protected members can be directly accessed. So this is what note we are telling over here. So here when we are talking about private mode of inheritance, we have to be careful. So other two modes, whether it is public or protected, it remains the same. So let us move further. Let us take another one example. So here that is implementation to show that a derived class doesn't inherit us inherit access to private data members. That is what we have given a note in the previous slide. We have seen a node. So that node only we are going to see in the form of a program. Here I have defined a class A in which public members are there, data members X, data member X which is public, protected data member Y, and private data member Z. So I have defined three different datas inside my class A, and I am inheriting class B from class A, and then inside B also I have defined Y is protected and Z is like X is public, which is taken from class A, it is accessible. Y becomes protected as it is taken from class A, but Z is not accessible from B. Why? Because Z is defined as a private member in the class A. So as I said, private, whenever we talk about private members, you have to be careful because private members cannot be accessed outside the class. Similarly, I have defined another one, class C, protectedly inherited from A. In that case, my data member X becomes protected, Y becomes protected, Z is not accessible from C just because Z is again private. So private is default for classes. So this is one of the example which shows the access specific, the way modes in which we are inheriting our base classes from the inheriting derived classes from the base classes. Let us move to the next level of types of inheritance. So I think inheritance is very clear. What is inheritance in terms of OOPS, in terms of general, we have initially seen a generalized meaning of the term inheritance, and then we have seen how we can relate inheritance in terms of OOPS, C++, and we have taken some examples in C++ where we are implementing inheritance to show how we derived classes from another class. Then we have seen modes, how in which mode we can inherit derived classes from the base classes. And then next we come to see what are the types of inheritance in C++. So in this we have some 5 different types of inheritance. So one is a single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical, and then hybrid inheritance. So these different forms of inheritance, different ways in which we can inherit derived classes from the base classes. Let us see each of them in detail. So when we talk about single inheritance, it is a simple type of inheritance in which a class is allowed to inherit from only one class. That is, one subclass is inherited by one base class. So this is a simple type of inheritance. If we go to the next type of inheritance, multiple. So as the name suggests, multiple inheritance, here we have a class which can inherit from more than one classes. That is, one subclass is inherited from more than one base classes. So in this case, we may have a base class and it may have some data members. Then we may have 2 or more derived classes, and these derived classes can take some properties from one base class or some other properties from another base class. So you may have 2 or more base classes and one derived class which can take properties, some from one base class, some properties from another base class, and some of its own properties it can have. Let us come to the next type of inheritance, that is multi-level inheritance. In this type of inheritance, a derived class is created from another derived class. So we may have a kind of levels. So at the top level we may have a base class, at the next level we may have a derived class, and below that again we may have another one class which is derived from the previous derived class. So this will be multi-level inheritance. If we talk about hierarchical inheritance, in this type more than one subclass is inherited from a single base class. So in this case we may have a single base class and we may have more number of derived classes, and they may take properties from the base class. So such type of inheritance comes under hierarchical inheritance. When we talk about hybrid inheritance, hybrid inheritance implements combination of more than one type of inheritance in a particular program. So combining hierarchical inheritance and multiple inheritance together may give a form of inheritance called hybrid type of inheritance. Let us take example for each one of these. So for single inheritance, we have a simple program here. Example program, we have a base class with the name animal, and in that I have defined a member function sound, which is displaying a sentence, animal makes a sound. With the help of cout in this member function, we are displaying this message, and with this I end with my class. I have a derived class with the name dog. This derived class dog is inherited publicly from base class animal, and in this class also I am defining a member function in which I am going to output dog barks. So these are my two classes, base class, derived class. Come to the main function. In the main function I have created an object for the derived class, so dog and my dog. My dog is the object created for the base class. Now I am using the dot operator, and with the help of the dot operator I am going to call the member function. So my dog dot sound. So sound is a member function of the base class. Though my object is created for the derived class, I am using it to call a member function of the base class. So here inherited from animal. So I can see sound inherited from the animal, that is the base class. My dog, next line we see my dog dot bark. So bark is the member function of derived class. So here it is defined in the dog, that is derived class. So this is the way when I call this function, it will display animal makes a sound, and when I call the second function, it will display dog barks. So what is the conclusion here is, even though just because it is dog class is derived from the base class animal, we are able to access the member functions of the base class with the help of the object created in the derived class. So this is just a small example, single inheritance, where just one base class we are having and one derived class is what we are having. Let us move to the second type of inheritance. Second type of inheritance is the multiple inheritance. As we said, multiple inheritance where we will have more than one base class and a single derived class, and the single derived class will take data members or member functions from the base class, one or more base class. So let us come to the example. Here I am having the first base class. The name of the class is person. In that I have defined a member function, that is show name, public member function. This show name, this function will display the name of the person, whatever name we want to display, that name will be displayed over here. Let us come out of the class. Then I am defining my second base class, which is worker, class worker. Inside that I am using a member function show job. In show job I am going to display job engineer. So I am displaying the job of the person, job of the sush. That is why the name of the function show job. Here I am displaying the job of the person. Let us come out of the class. So I have totally defined two base classes till now. Come to the derived class. So here I am having one derived class with the name employee. This employee class is inherited publicly from the base class 1, that is person, and also publicly derived from the second base class worker. So basically the employee class is inherited, or it is taking the properties both from the first base class as well as the second base class, And then come to the main function. Here I have created an object EMP of the type employee. With the help of the dot operator, I am calling the functions, the member functions show name and show job. Show name, which comes from the base class person, and show job, which comes from the second base class, that is the worker. So that was the example for multiple inheritance. Now let us take the next type of inheritance, that is multi-level inheritance. So in multi-level inheritance, as I told you, there will be levels. Like we have a base class, then we have a derived class, and then again we have a derived class derived from that derived class, the original, initial derived class. Let us take an example. Here I am having a base class with the name animal. In animal, I have defined a member function eat. Eat, what does this function do? The function will print out or display animal eats food. Close the class, come to the derived class. So next I am having a class dog, and this dog class is publicly derived from base class animal. Inside this class, I have defined a member function bark. What does this function do? The bark function will display the message dog barks. So one base class we have defined, we have one derived class, come out of the class. Next, now here what we have done, again we have a derived class. So here I have a derived class called puppy. The name of the class is puppy, and this puppy is derived from the derived class dog. Dog also is a derived class. Dog also is a derived class. This dog is derived from animal. So from animal I have taken dog. From dog I am taking puppy. So here in this class I have defined a member function weep. What does this weep function does? It displays the message puppy weeps. So this is my entire program. Come to the main function. In the main function, what I have done, I have created a object for my derived, the second derived class, that is puppy. With this object and dot operator, I am calling the functions. So first I have called pup.eat. Let us check where this eat data function, member function comes from. Eat comes from the base class. So from the base class inherited from animal. So animal. So this eat function comes from the base class. Next, pup.bark. The bark function comes from the inherited class and dog, from the second inherited class, first inherited class, that is dog. Next, pup.weep. Weep is weep function comes from the second derived class. So this is my second derived class. So it appears like a hierarchy, that is a levels. On the top I have the base class animal. At the second level I have the derived class dog. At the lower level I am having another derived class puppy. So this is multi-level inheritance. I hope this example is understood by everyone. Multi-level inheritance. Let us move to the next form. Hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance. So hierarchy means again here we will have levels, but not in that way. It may be in a haphazard manner. Let us take an example. Here I am having a base class animal, in which again I am defining eat. I have another one derived class dog. It will display, it will give it. There is a member function bark. Then I have another one derived class cat. This cat is publicly derived from animal. So can you just identify the difference between the previous example and this example? Here I am having one base class. I am having two derived classes. So these two derived classes, they are taking their properties from that one base class, from the base class. So in the previous case we had one base class, one derived class, second derived class. But here in this case, we are having one base class, one derived class, another derived class, but this class is not inheriting properties from the derived but the base class. So this is what is hierarchical inheritance. This is the same, the main part, the main function is the same as we have seen in the previous programs.